Welcome to the Real Estate Show. This is Narayan here, and today I'm going to talk about 8 factors which is going to make the appreciation of any property. Well, it has been long that any investor, either he's an investor or an end user, the only thing they look about is how will the property appreciate in terms of the future. Now, let me give you 8 factor which actually determines how the property price actually goes up. Now, these are important factors not only in terms of the home buyer has to look for, but also in terms of the developer and also for any rented house that people look for. They should look for these 8 important factors which actually appreciates the cost of the housing in those areas. Now, let me list down the first factor. The first factor is demand and supply. Now, for long, any housing or commercial aspect really looks for is a demand and supply. Now, demand and supply are based on certain things which happens. Firstly, in all cities, if you look at all cities across India or anywhere in the world, the demand and supply in any city in certain areas are much higher and the rest of the areas are much lower. And even when you look at a demand and supply within a city, there is a certain pocket area which goes for higher demand, and you would immediately see a building which is next to it would not have so much of demand. Now, what is the demand and supply would mean is that the moment anybody tries to sell it, you will automatically find a lot of buyers looking for those properties, and the appreciation are higher, and the owner of the property are able to sell it much faster. So, demand and supply do matter a lot, and that actually determines the value of property going up. The next point is the physical inflation. Now, what does physical inflation means is, now physical inflation means there is an excess of cash in terms of circulation. Now, excess of cash in terms of circulation would actually give rise to the higher property prices. Now, what we have seen is, if you look at the latest this thing where the demonetization was done, even if you look at in terms of the property price from 2007 to 2000 almost 13, the property prices shot up tremendously across India, and the critical factor for this shooting up so high was the physical inflation, where the physical inflation really boosted the cost of property and allowed a lot of cash flow into this segment, and ultimately resulting in terms of higher property price. The third is the cost of borrowing. For decades, the government's intention to boost this segment in terms of real estate segment is to ensure the cost of borrowing reduces. Now, the reduction in terms of the cost of borrowing ultimately increases the demand and allows the property price to really rise up. Now, this is one critical factor all governments are trying to do, is reduce the cost of borrowing from the bank, so that this allows a better traction in the market, and also allows better demand in terms of the. So, this is surely a very critical factor. The fourth is the property market drivers. Now, what a property market driver means that in any locality, if there are driving force in terms of the market which positively affect the movement in terms of the market, allows the local catchment area or allows a certain pocket of development drives the force in certain pockets of development to rise higher. Now, I will give you some examples of what driver actually means is that any development which happens in certain area, things like better infrastructure, new railway stations, large mall coming up, for a residential sector, even if there are commercial complex which has got developed there, or a large park which is developed, hospitals, etc. Now, these actually are the potential market drivers in those areas, which also helps in terms of the demand and supply in those areas, and that also drives a better and positive market drivers and allows a better increase in terms of the residential. The fifth is the population growth. Now, you would actually see is there are certain city, and in fact all major city has a large population growth. You know, there are examples like Bangalore, Bombay, Hyderabad, Gurgaon, where there are sudden increase of population, and the growth of population actually makes the city grow much larger. It makes the city grow at much faster pace. Now, the population growth influx, when it comes into, there is surely a demand for all this, both in terms of residential, in terms of commercial, things like malls, etc. So, all these potential drives the particular market and allows a higher demand for the properties. The sixth is better amenity. Why you would see there are two buildings which are adjacent to each other, and one has 20% higher demand, whereas the other has probably 20% less demand. One of the factor is the amenities in the building. Today, you would see all new building are fitted with best of amenities. The reason is amenities, better amenities gives birth to better demand, and the better demand gives birth to higher prices, and it gives you a quality in terms of the person and aspirations of people for living in those areas. So, better quality of amenities. Anybody buying a building, looking for a building which doesn't have good amenities, and the other guys would probably see a building which has all the amenities. So, you should look for a property which has better amenities. Now, the seventh is better connectivity. Now, for sure, in all cities, if you see, there are certain areas which where the demands are much higher, and there are certain areas where the demands is much lower. One of the main reason for this is the connectivity to those areas are better. The road connectivity, rail connectivity, public services connectivity, etc. All these allows a higher demand for future, and would allow automatically this forms a category where you should look for a building or a location which has better connectivity. Last but the least, quality of building and maintenance. Now, quality of building actually basically is quality of developer. Now, if you look at a certain developer, their quality of buildings are much better, yeah, and there are certain developers where the quality of building is not good. So, quality of building determines by the quality of developer that he is. And the last one, which is part of it, is the maintenance of building. Now, in most cases, the maintenance of building are done by the residents. Now, there are two kinds of maintenance. One is an immediate maintenance, where you see it's all cleaner, greener, etc. And the second one is the long-time maintenance, that any building having leakages, etc., the moment it is attended, the life of a building is much longer, and the demand of the building becomes much higher. So, quality of maintenance is also plays a large role in this. Well, thank you for today. Do write to us if you like us, subscribe us, and give us a thumbs up. Thank you very much.
If you like this video, please share it, and we would love to hear your comments in the comments section down here. Also, please do like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter to get minute-to-minute news updates. For more such shows and videos, well, subscribe to our YouTube channel.